So Jonathan is the same Jonathan, and it is in Hotel Transylvania, and he goes to Transylvania, and he goes to Dracula's house because Dracula's like, "Yo, I want to do some business. Come by." Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so then, he's like, "Okay, I'll pull up." And so he goes over to do some business, and then Dracula's like, "Just kidding, you dumbass! Like, I'm a fucking vampire." And he just does all these little strange little things. He's like, "What is?" And Jonathan's like, "What's this guy doing?" Because keep in mind, vampires didn't really exist.
Yeah, this is
other than in folklore. This is like
the vampire YouTube phenomenon.
This is before Twilight, yeah. So then he's like, "Oh shit!" And this is all in like POV, and it's his journal, Jonathan's journal. And Jonathan is writing letters back to his lover, who I forget her name. It might be Mary. I think it's Mary.
I was gonna guess Marcia, but okay. Close.
And he's writing her letters, and he's writing his buddy letters, and so they're like, but the letters are Dracula-approved letters. Dracula's like Stalin, and it's like propaganda.
He's like, okay.
He's like, and he's saying all these things are not true because Dracula wants to suck his blood. And then 3 young, pale-faced women come by, and they go, "Yo," and they're like all like touching his throat, and he's like, "Wait, why is that kind of like a turn on?" But they're vampires, and he freaks out, and he runs away. And yeah, so then he runs away, and then it ends.
That's
but he has this whole thing. Oh, he runs away, and then Dracula's like, Don't take my... I'm pimping this boy out. Don't you eat him?" So then he's like, "Yo, Dracula, I think I'm ready to go," because Dracula hasn't like come out as a vampire. And so Dracula's like, "Okay, you can go." But then Dracula has like magic powers, and he sicks the wolves, and the wolves start howling. And Jonathan's like, "Okay, I changed my mind. I take it back. I'm not doing that." So then it goes through a bunch of really weird perspective things. Like
he's high, or
so then,
like...
No, we're not with Jonathan anymore. We're with Lucy.
It's like literally another
and Lucy,
perspective. Whoa.
Lucy is writing letters to Mary, and they're like, Mary's like, "Oh man, I hope Jonathan's okay. I've heard from him, but it just doesn't seem like him. But I know it's him because it's his handwriting." And Lucy is like, "Oh yeah, I had 3 guys propose to me, and one of them was like this really nice guy from Texas, but I had to say no because I'm marrying this other guy. I forget who." Then there's also this doctor who, I don't really know how he fits in, but he is with this guy named Renfield, which is like the Nick Cage movie. And Renfield is like a crazy person in a mental hospital, and he's only crazy at night, and he does like weird things to animals. And he's like just a caricature of a crazy person.
So basically, he must be a werewolf then, like going off that logic.
I thought he was a vampire, but you're probably right. He's probably a werewolf. But full moons. Anyway, point being, then I don't remember what happens. It kind of goes wanders around in circles, talking about the doctor and how great he is. And then maybe I should pull up the Spark Notes. Actually, I'm not gonna do that. So then,
yeah, you should also write like an essay on like, you know, the character growth that happens throughout the.
I do actually have to do that eventually.
Oh,
so
is this like an actual project or thing like you have to do?
This is for university, yeah.
Oh wow. Clearly there's meaning to this recap then.
I can read a different book if you'd like, but I think Dracula is funny because it's like iconic. Shoot, I'm forgetting, Bob. I'm forgetting. Where I was talking about the doctor. Oh, then this boat comes into town, and there's one guy on it, and it's from the East, which is where Dracula is from. The East being it's a Russian boat, and Dracula is Romanian or something. I don't know. It's like weird empires.
Oh yeah, I mean Dracula is Romanian, right? Like there's always like Romanian vampire, steel, garlic
fucking blood.
onion.
And so Yeah, the boat comes in, but this guy on the boat, the pilot of the boat, the captain, the guy sailing the boat, has his hands nailed to the wheel, and everyone else on the boat has disappeared. And it's just this dead man sailing a boat. And all the boxes are full of mold, and people are like, okay, what happened? So they check the ship logs. It's like implying that there's a vampire on the boat.
Good heavens.
So then I think we go and mess around with Renfield some more. I gotta actually find... I've been listening to the audiobook while I play RimWorld, and it's probably been messing up my reading.
I do, that is the ideal way to do it, though, because, like, fuck actually having to, like, sit down and read.
I don't hate reading books, I just hate reading bad books.
Are you saying Dracula is bad?
I'm saying it's not a good book, and it's dumb.
I see. I mean...
Okay, chapter 10.
Yeah,
okay,
well,
I
like,
just did chapter 10.
If books had, like, Subway Surfers on them, like, I might listen a bit more, but...
12... Okay. So then the thing is... Okay, chapter 11. So, oh yeah, so then Lucy starts turning into a vampire, and everyone's like, what is she doing? She's so sus. Like, what's wrong with her, right? And...
Yeah, like, starts
she's
turning
like
into a
sleepwalking.
vampire, or she just is a vampire? Is it like a
She's
slow, gradual
sleepwalking,
thing or
and
something?
her face is turning white, and she's going out at night, and her blood, she doesn't bleed when she gets pricked.
Was that
So
an
people are
actual
like,
vampire
what?
thing?
Yeah, vampires apparently have no blood. I'm not sure. And so then this guy comes by and he's like, oh, so then Mary, who's Lucy's best friend, calls the doctor. I might have gotten the names backwards.
Okay, well, whatever. We just roll with it at this point.
It doesn't matter. So then Lucy's boyfriend is like, he calls this guy named Dr. Van Helsing, which is a vampire hunter name if I've ever heard of it. And he's from the Netherlands, and he's like, yo, this chick's a vampire. We gotta fix her heart, because her heart is not too late. And so they just keep on transfusing blood to the point that they almost die, like her fiance and Dr. Van Helsing.
Oh, like they just used their... I guess, yeah. They couldn't really find a volunteer, I guess.
Yeah, and so... I think that's where we left off. Okay. Chapter 11. Lucy Westerna's Diary. 12th of September. How good they all are to me. I quite love that dear Dr. Van Helsing. I wonder why he was so anxious about these flowers. Oh, Van Helsing also gave her flowers, and she's like, oh, because you think I'm cute? And he's like, no, because you're sick, you idiot. And they're like supposed to help her. He positively frightened me. He was so fierce, and yet he must have been right. For I feel comfort from them already. Somehow, I do not dread being alone tonight. Oh, and she was also getting nightmares and freaking out. And I can go to sleep without fear. I shall not mind any flapping outside the window. Oh, the terrible struggle that I have had against sleep so often of late. The pain of sleeplessness. Or the pain of the fear of sleep. And with such unknown horrors as it has for me. How blessed are some people whose lives have no fears, no dreads, to whom sleep is a blessing that comes nightly and brings nothing but sweet dreams. Well, here I am tonight, hoping for sleep, and lying like Ophelia in the play, with virgin krantz and maiden struments. Never liked garlic before, but tonight it is delightful. Bob, can we get a reaction on that?
Delightful.
Dude, delightful garlic?
Garlic is quite delightful. I throw in way too much on my food. I think that
Well,
should
I'm
be
saying... Okay, I'm not getting derailed. It's your job to react. You're the reactor.
Okay, I'm the reactor.
But come on, the garlic, and she was a vampire, and now she's like, okay, I like mess with garlic.
Interesting.
There's peace in its smell. I feel sleep coming already. Good night, everybody.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Oh yeah, I guess
Dr. Stewart.
vampires like aren't really like sleepy little babies, I guess.
Oh, and then Dr. Seward, I think, is the guy that was messing with Renfield. Dr. Seward's diary, 13th of September. Called at the Berkeley and found Van Helsing, as usual, up to time. The carriage ordered from the hotel was waiting. The professor took his bag, which he always brings with him now. Let all be put down exactly. Van Helsing and I arrived at Hillingham at 8 o'clock. It was a lovely morning. The bright sunshine and all the fresh feeling of early autumn seemed like the completion of nature's annual work. The leaves were tuned to all kinds of beautiful colors, but had not yet begun to drop from the trees. When we entered, we met Miss Westerna, coming out of the morning room. She is always an early riser. She greeted us warmly and said, "You will be glad to know that Lucy is better. The dear child is still asleep." I looked into her room and saw her, but did not go in, lest I should disturb her. The professor smiled and looked quite jubilant. He rubbed his hands together and said, "Aha! I thought I had diagnosed the case. My treatment is working," to which she answered, "You must not take all the credit to yourself, doctor. Lucy's state this morning is due in part to me." "How do you mean, ma'am?" asked the professor. "Well, I was anxious about the dear child in the night, and went into her room."
Wait, one second, John. Can you pause for a second? Guys, shut the fuck up! Toesucker's reading me a book! He's reading me Dracula! Shut the fuck up, guys!
Do you want to pipe me through, voice comm with some, virtual amps?
Approximately. Yeah, what a bag.
That would be really funny. Okay.
I don't. Okay, go on. They shut up slightly.
I was anxious about the dear child in the night, and went into her room. She was sleeping soundly, so soundly that even my kind did not wake her. But the room was awfully stuffy. There were a lot of those horrible, strong-smelling flowers about everywhere. She had actually a bunch of them around her neck. I feared the heavy odor would be too much for the dear child in her weak state. So I took them all away and opened a bit of the window to let in some fresh air. You will be pleased with her, I am sure. She moved off into her boudoir, where she usually breakfasted early. As she had spoken, I watched the professor's face. Saw it turn ashen gray. He'd been able to retain his self-command whilst the poor lady was present, for he knew her state and how mischievous a shock would be. He actually smiled on her as he held the door for her to pass into her room. The instant she had disappeared, he pulled me, suddenly and forcibly, into the dining room and closed the door. Then, for the first time in my life, I saw Van Helsing break down. He raised his hands over his head in a sort of mute despair, and then beat his palms together in a helpless way. Finally, he sat down on a chair, putting his hands before his face, began to sob, with loud, dry sobs that seemed to come from the very racking of his heart. Then, he raised his arms again, as though appealing to the whole universe. "God, God, God," he said. "What have we done? What has this poor thing done, that we are so sore beset? Is there fate amongst us still, sent down from the pagan world of old, that such things might be, in such a way? The poor mother, all-knowing, and all for the best, as she think, does such thing as lose her daughter, body and soul. We must not tell her. We must not even warn her, or she die. And then both die. Oh, how we are beset. How are all the powers of the devils against us." Suddenly he jumped to his feet. "Come," he said. "Come, we must see an act. The devils or no devils, or all the devils at once. Matters not. We fight him all the same." He went to the hall door for his bag, and together we went up to Lucy's room. Once again, I drew up the blind, whilst Van Helsing went towards the bed. This time, he did not start, as he looked on the poor face in the same way, waxen taller as before. He wore a look of stern sadness and infinite pity. "As expected," he murmured, with that hissing inspiration of his which meant so much. Without a word, he went and locked the door, and then began to set out on the little table the instruments for another operation of transfusion of blood. I had long ago recognized this necessity and began to take off my coat. But he began to stop me with a warning hand. "No," he said. "Today you must operate. I shall provide. You are weakened already." As he spoke, he tore off his coat and rolled up his sleeve. Again the operation. Again the narcotic. Again some return of color to the ashy cheeks, and the regular breathing of a healthy sleep. This time, I watched whilst Van Helsing recruited himself and rested. Presently, he took an opportunity of telling Miss Westerna that she must not remove anything from Lucy's room without consulting him, that the flowers were of medicinal value, and that the breathing of their odor was a part of the system of the cure. Then he took over the care of the case by himself, saying that he would come watch this night. The next he would send me word when to come. After another hour, Lucy waked from her sleep, fresh and bright, and seemingly not much the worse for her terrible ordeal. What does it all mean? I'm beginning to wonder if my long habit or life amongst the insane is beginning to tell upon my own brain. Lucy Westerna's diary, 17th of September. 4 days and nights of peace. I'm being so strong again that I hardly know myself. It's as if I had passed through some sort of long nightmare and just awakened to see the beautiful shine and feel the fresh air of the morning around me. I have a dim half-remembrance of long, anxious times of waiting and fearing. Darkness, in which there was not even the pain of hope to make present distress more poignant, and then long spells of oblivion, and the rising back to the life as a diver coming up through a great press of water. Since, however, Dr. Van Helsing has been with me, all this bad dreaming seems to have passed away. The noises that used to frighten me out of my wits, the flapping against the windows, the distant voices which seemed so close to me, harsh sounds that came from I know not where and commanded me to do I know not what, have all ceased. I go to bed now without any fear of sleep. I do not even try to keep awake. I have grown quite fond of the garlic, and a box full arrives for me every day from Haarlem. Tonight, Dr. Van Helsing is going away, as he has to be for a day in Amsterdam. But I need not be watched. I am well enough to be left alone. Thank God for Mother's sake, and dear Arthur's, for all his friends who have been so kind. I shall not even feel the change, for last night Dr. Van Helsing slept in his chair. A lot of the time I found him asleep, twice when I woke. But I did not fear to go to sleep again. Oh, the bats, something flapped almost angrily against the window pane. The Pall Mall Gazette, 18th September. The escaped wolf, perilous adventure of our interviewer. Interview with the keeper in the zoological gardens. After many inquiries and almost as many refusals, and perpetually using the words Pall Mall Gazette as a sort of talisman, I managed to find the keeper of the section of the zoological gardens in which the wolf department is included. Thomas Builder lives in one of the cottages in the enclosure behind the elephant house. He was just sitting down to his tea when I found him. Thomas and his wife are hospitable folk, elderly and without children. As if the specimen I enjoyed of their hospitality be of average kind, their lives must be pretty comfortable. The keeper would not enter on what he called business until the supper was over, and we were all satisfied. Then, when the table was cleared, and he had lit his pipe, he said, "Now, sir, you can go on and ask me what you want, but you'll excuse me for refusing to talk of professional subjects afore meals. I give dwarves and jackals and the hyenas and all our section their tea afore I get to ask them questions." "How do you mean, ask them questions?" I queried, wishfully to get him into talkative humor. "In it of 'em over the head with a pole is one way, scratching their ears is another. When gents is flush, wants a bit of store off their gals, I don't touch mine to fush, the in it. The eatin' with the pole, a part afore I chucks in the dinner, but I waits till they had their sherry and their coffee, so to speak, afore I tries on with the ear scratching, mind you," he added philosophically. "There's a deal of the same nature in us as in their animals. Here's you a coming, and asking of me questions about my business. and that I grumpy like, that only for you bloomin' arf quid I'd a seen you blowed fuss for I'd answer. Not even when you'd arst me a sarcastic like, if I'd like to go arst the superintendent if you might arst me questions.
Is this like an accent actually written like on
this is
book?
An actual accent written in the book.
Okay.
And I'm pronouncing it as it is actually written.
I see.
Without offense.
Keep on grinding, girl boss.
Yeah. Did I tell you to go to hell? You did. Oh no, there's more. There's so much more. And when you said you'd report for me using of obscene language, that was hitting me over the head. The arf quid made that all right. I weren't to go into fight, so I waited for the food and did with my owl as the wolves and lions as the tiger does. But Lord love your art. Now that the old woman has stuck a chunk of her tea cake in me and rinsed me out with her bloomin' old teapot, and I've lit hop, you may scratch my ears for all you're worth and won't even get a growl out of me. Drive along with your questions. I know that what you're coming at, that you're escaped wolf. Exactly. I want you to give me your view of it. Just tell me how it happened. And when I know the facts, I'll get you to say what you consider was the cause of it, and how you think the whole affair was held. We'll end. Alright, governor. This is about the old story. That here wolf, what we call Berserker, was one of 3 grey ones that come from Norway to Jamrax, which we bought off him 4 years ago. He was a nice, well-behaved wolf that never gave no trouble to talk of. I'm more surprised that I'm wanting to get out nor any animal in the place, but there, if you can't trust wolves no more, nor woman. Don't you mind him, sir? Broke Miss Tom with a cheery laugh. He's got minded the animals so long that blessed if he ain't like an old wolf himself, but there ain't no more harm in him. Well, sir, it was about 2 hours after feeding you. Well, sir, it was about 2 hours after feeding yesterday when I heard a disturbance. I was making up a litter in the monkey house for a young puma which is ill. When I heard the yelping and howling, I came away straight. There was Berserker a-tearing like a mad thing at the bars as if he wanted to get out. There wasn't much people about that day, and close at hand was only one man, a tall, thin chap with a hook nose and a pointed beard, with a few white hairs running through it. He said he had cold look and red eyes, and I sort of misliked to him, for it seemed as if it was him as they were irritated at. He had the white kid gloves on and his and Anne's, pointed at the animals. Keeping his wolves there seemed upset at something. Maybe it's you, I says, for I'd not like the airs as he give him himself. He didn't get angry, as I hoped he would, but he smiled a kind of insolent smile, with a mouthful of white, sharp teeth. Oh no, they wouldn't like me, he says. Oh yes, they would, I says, imitating him. They always likes a bone or two to clean their teeth on about tea time, which you was...
One moment, grandsire.
Okay, sure.
Continue on, sire. Please continue on.
Well, it was an odd thing, but when the animals see us a-talking, they lay down. And when I went over to Berserker, and he stroked his ears same as ever. That there man came over, blessed. But if he didn't put his hand and stroke the old wolf's ears too, take care, says I. Berserker is quick. Never mind, he says, I'm used to him. Are you in the business yourself? I says, taking off my hat for a man who trades in wolves. Accent, sir, is a good friend to keepers. No, he says, not exactly in the business, but I have made pets several. With that, he lifts his... And with that, he lifts his hat. paralyzed as a lord. Walks away. Old Berserker's got the old Berserker's kept looking alright, and I till him was out of sight. And then, and lie down in the corner and wouldn't come out that old evening. Well, last night, so soon as the moon was a whoop, the wolves here all began howling. There weren't nothing for them to howl at. There weren't no one near except someone that was evidently calling a dog somewhere out the back of the gardens in the park road. Once or twice I went out to see I was alright, and it says, and then the island stopped just before 12 o'clock. I just took a look round afore turning in, bust me. But when I came opposite the Berserker cage, I see the rails broken and twisted about and the cage empty. And that's all I know for certain. Did anyone else Did anyone else see anything? One of our gardeners was coming home about that time from the harmony when he sees a big gray dog coming out through the garden edges. At least, so he says, but I don't give much for myself, or if he didn't never say a word about it to his missus when he got home. And it was only after the escape of the wolf was made known, and we had been up all night a-hunting of the park for Berserker, that he remembered seeing nothing. My own belief was the armory ad got in his head. Now, Mr. Builder, can you account in any way for the escape of the wolf? Well, sir, he said, with a suspicious sort of modesty, I think I can. But I don't know how you be satisfied with the theory. Certainly I shall, if a man like you who knows the animals from experience. Certainly I shall. If a man like you, who knows the animals from experience, can't hazard a good guess at any rate, who is even to try? Well, Aunt Sure, I accounts for it this way. Seems to me that here wolf escaped simply because he wanted to get out. From the hearty way that both Thomas and his wife laughed at the joke, I could see that it had done service before, that the whole explanation was simply an elaborate style. I couldn't cope in badinage with the worthy Thomas, but I thought I knew a surer way to his heart, so I said, now, Mr. Builder, we'll consider that the first half-sovereign worked off, and this brother of his is waiting to be claimed when he told me what I think will happen. Right you are, sir. You'll excuse me, I know for chaffing you, but the old woman here winked at me, which was much a telling to go on. Well, I never, said the old lady. My opinion is that here wolf is hiding somewhere. The guy that didn't remember said he was a galloping northward faster than a horse could go. I can't do this, but I don't believe him. For ye see, sir, wolves don't gallop no more nor dogs do. They not being built that way. Wolves is fine things in a storybook, and I just say, when they gets in packs and does be achieving something that's more feared than they can make a devil of noise and chop it up. Whatever it is, but Lord blessing you, in real life a wolf is only a low creature. Not half so clever or bold as a good dog, and not half a quarter so much fighting him. This one ain't been used to fighting or even providing for himself. More like he's somewhere around the park hiding, and a shivering, and more like he's somewhere around the park, and of all, if he thinks at all, wondering where he is to get his breakfast from. Or maybe he's got down some area in a coal cellar. My eye won't some cook get a rum start when he sees his green eyes shining at her out of the dark. If he can't get food, he's bound to look for it, and mayhap he may chance to light on a butcher shop in time. If he doesn't, and some nursemaid goes walking off the soldier, even of the infant in the perambulator, well, that I shouldn't be surprised if the census is one baby that's the less, that's all. I was handing him the half-sovereign when something came bobbing up against the window. Mr. Bidler's face doubled its natural length with surprise. God bless me, he said. If there ain't any Berserker come by itself. He went to the door and opened it. A most unnecessary proceeding It seemed to me, I'd always thought that a wild animal never looked so well as when some obstacle of pronounced durability is between us. A personal experience has intensified rather than diminished the idea. After all, however, there is nothing like custom. Neither the Biddler nor his wife thought any more of the wolf than I should a dog. The animal itself was a peaceful and well-behaved at the father of all picture wolves, Red Riding Hood's quantum friend, while moving her confidence masquerade. The whole scene was an unutterable mixture of comedy and pathos. The wicked wolf, that for a half day had paralyzed London and set all children in town shivering in their shoes, was there in a sort of sentient mood, and was received and petted like some sort of vulpine prodigal son. Old Biddler examined him all over with most tender solitude. When he had finished with his pendient, said, "Yeah, I knew the old chap would get into some kind of trouble, didn't I say all along? Here's his head all cut and full of broken glass. He's been a-getting over some bloomin' wall or other. It's a shame that people are allowed to top their walls with broken bottles. That is what's come of it. Come along, Bearska." He took the wolf and locked him up in a cage with a piece of meat that satisfied in quantity of anyway the elementary conditions of the fatted calf, and went off to report. I came off too, to report the only exclusive information that is given today regarding the strange escapade at the zoo. Dr. Seward's diary. 17th of September. I was engaged after dinner in my study, posting up my books, which, through press of other work, and many visits to Lucy, had fallen sadly into arrear. Suddenly the door was burst open, and in rushed my patient, with his face disoriented with passion. I was thunderstruck, for such a thing as a patient getting of his own accord into the superintendent's study is almost unknown. Without an instant pause, he made straight at me. He had a dinner knife in his hand, and I saw he was dangerous. I tried to keep the table between us. He was too quick and too strong for me, however. Before I could get my balance, he had struck me and cut my left wrist severely. Before he could strike again, however, I got in my right. He was sprawling on his back on the floor. My wrist bled freely, and quite a little pool trickled down to the carpet. I saw my friend was not intent on further effort, and I occupied myself binding up my wrist, keeping a wary eye on the prostrate figure all the time. When the attendants rushed in and we turned our attention to him, his employment positively sickened me. He was lying on his belly on the floor, licking up like a dog the blood which had fallen from my wounded wrist. He was easily secured, and to my surprise, went with the attendants quite placidly, simply repeating over and over again, "The blood is life! The blood is life!" I cannot afford to lose blood just at present. I've lost too much of late for my physical good, and the prolonged strain of Lucy's illness and its horrible phases is telling on me. I'm overexcited and weary. I need rest, rest, rest. Happily, Van Helsing has not summoned me, so I need not forgo my tonight. I could not do well without it. Telegram. Van Helsing. Antwerp to Seward, Carfax. Sent to Carfax, Sussex, as no county given. Delivered late by 22 hours. 17th September. Do not fail to be at Hillingham tonight. If not watching all the time, frequent visit and see that flowers are placed. Very important. Do not fail. Shall be with you as soon as possible after. Dr. Seward's diary. Just off 18th of September, just off train to London. The arrival of Van Helsing telegram filled me with dismay. A whole night lost, and I know by bitter experience what may happen in the night. Of course it is possible that all may be well, but what may have happened? Surely there is some doom hanging over us, that every possible accident should thwart us in all we try to do. I shall take the cylinder with me, and then I can complete my entry on Lucy's phonograph. Memorandum left by Lucy Western. 17th September, night. I write this and leave it to be seen, so that no one, my mere chance, can get it to any trouble for me. This is an exact record of what took place tonight. I feel I am dying of weakness. I have barely strength to write, but it must be done if I die in the doing. I have to go to bed as usual, taking care of the flowers that were placed as Dr. Helsing directed, and soon fall asleep. I was waked up by the flapping of the window, which had begun after that sleepwalking on the cliff at Whitby when Mina saved me, and which now I know so well. I was not afraid, but I did wish that Dr. Seward was in the room next to it, and as Dr. Helping said he would be, so that I might have called him. Tried to go to sleep, but could not. Then there came to me the old fear of sleep, and I determined to keep awake. Perversely, sleep would try to come, then when I did not want it to, as I feared to be alone, I opened my door and called out, "Is there anybody there?" There was no answer. I was afraid to wake Mother, and so closed my door again. Then outside the shrubbery I heard a sort of howl like a dog's, but more fierce and deeper. I went to the window and looked out, but could not see anything, except a big bat, which had evidently been buffeting its wings against the window.
A
So I went back to bed
vampire?
again, but determined not to go to sleep. Presently, the door opened, and Mother looked in, seeing my moving that I was not asleep, and sat by me. She said to me even more sweetly and softer than her wont, "I was uneasy about you, darling, and came in to see that you were all right. I feared she might catch a cold sitting there, and asked her to come in and sleep with me, so she came to bed and lay beside me. She did not take off her dressing gown, for she said she would only stay a while, and then go back to her own bed. As she lay there in my arms, and I in hers, the flapping and buffeting came to the window again. She was startled and a little frightened, and cried out, 'What is that?' I tried to pacify her, at last succeeded, and she lay quiet, but I could hear her poor dear heart still beating terribly. After a while there was a low howl again out in the shrubbery, and shortly after there was a crash at the window, and a lot of the broken glass was hurled onto the floor. The window blind blew back with the wind that rushed in, and the aperture of broken panes that were the head of a great, gaunt grey wolf. Mother cried out in affright, and struggled up into a sitting posture, and clutched wildly at anything that would help her. Amongst other things, she clutched the wreath of flowers that Van Helsing insisted on wearing round my neck, and tore it away from me. For a second or two she sat up, pointing at the wolf, and there was a strange, horrible gurgling in my throat. Then she fell over, as if struck by lightning, and her head hit my forehead, made me dizzy for a moment or two. The room and all round seemed to spin round. I kept my eyes fixed on the window, but the wolf drew his head back, and a whole myriad of little specks seemed to come blowing in through the broken window, and wheeling and circling round like a pillar of dust that the travelers describe when there is no Cimarron in the desert. I tried to sit, but there was a spell upon me, and dear Mother's poor body, which seemed to grow cold already, from her dear heart had ceased to beat, weighed me down, and I remembered no more for a while. That time did not seem long, but very, very awful, till I recovered consciousness again. Somewhere near, a passing bell was tolling. Dogs all around the neighborhood were howling, and in our shrubbery, steamed just outside, a nightingale was singing. I was dazed and stupid with pain and terror and weakness, but the sound of the nightingale seemed like the voice of my dead mother come back to comfort me. The sound seemed to awaken the maids, too, for I could hear their bare feet pattering outside my door. I called to them, and they came in, and when they saw what had happened, and what it was that lay over me on the bed, they screamed out. The wind rushed in through the broken window, and the door slammed to. They lifted off the body of my dear mother, and I laid her, covered up with a sheet, on the bed after I had gotten up. They were all so frightened and nervous that I directed them to go to the dining room and have each a glass of wine. The door flew open for an instant, and closed again. The maid shrieked, and then went in a body to the dining room, and I had laid what flowers I had on my dear mother's breast. When they were there, I remembered what Dr. Van Helsing had told them, but I didn't like to remove them, and besides, I would have some of the servants sit up with me now. I was surprised that the maids did not come back. I called them, but got no answer, so I went to the dining room to look for them. My heart sank when I saw what happened. They all lay helpless on the floor, breathing heavily. The decanter of sherry was on the table half full, but there was a queer, acrid smell about them. I was suspicious and examined the decanter. It smelt of laudanum, or opium, and looked on the sideboard. I had found that the bottle which Mother's doctor uses for her, did use, was empty. What am I to do? What am I to do? I am back in the room with Mother. I cannot leave her, and I am alone, save for the sleeping servants, who someone has drugged. Alone with the dead, I dare not go out, for I can hear the howl of the wolf through the broken window. The air seems full of specks, floating and circling in the draught from the window. and the lights burn blue and dim. What am I to do? God shield me from harm this night. I shall hide this paper in my breast, where they shall find it when they come to lay me out. My dear mother gone, it is time to do that I go. Goodbye, dear Arthur. If I shall not survive this night, God keep you dear, and God help me. Okay, that's the chapter.
Wow.
Do you want to play Roblox?
I think I followed some things, except, you know, like how you were talking about the audiobook RimWorld thing? Turns out playing Team Fortress 2 is probably more distracting.
Yeah. That was one of the better paragraphs I've read. The rest of them were bad.
You mean chapters? Or
Chapters.
was that an entire paragraph? I'm worried here now.
That was a chapter. That was a
Okay.
chapter. That was a chapter. But, yeah, the rest of them were not good. Because that was the only one where something actually happened.
I
Oh man,
see.
I can't use my pinky though, because I cut it.
Oh,
I cut it on cheese grater.
What
I
happened?
cheese grated my pinky. Cheese grated it.
Oh yeah, you did just say that.
Yeah. Life is Roblox.
Truly, what are we actually going to Roblox?
I don't know. But surely there something has to...
I don't think there surely can be something. I think that is quite hopeful.
Okay. Just a quick little